Wame Molefhe is a prominent writer from Botswana. She's a full-time writer whose work has been published in literary journals, anthologies, and online publications. Her first collection of stories is called Just One. It was published, if I'm not mistaken, in 2009, and written mainly for children. Her second collection, Go Tell the Sun, this one right here, was published in 2011. It was redesigned and republished in 2018. She also writes scripts for the local TV and non-fiction for magazines. It is, to me, one of those essential writers that contributes not only to demystify preconceived ideas about Africa, but also builds and shapes a literary identity so needed in Botswana. Today, I'm honored to have Wame Molefhe in front of me, so to say. So how are you today, Wame?
I'm very well, thank you, and really honored to be meeting you and talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wayne, indeed. First of all, thank you so much for your time and for having given me the opportunity to translate into Spanish one of your short stories 6 years ago. And now this charming book, Go Tell the Sun. The first time I contacted you was almost 6 years ago, as I have said. When I contacted you because I had read your short story, Rainbow Colored Dreams, including this anthology, New Writing from Africa 2009, where the winning stories were selected by none other than Kutsi. This is also a story that I selected for my anthology, Ellas También Cuentan. In it, you talk about a social condition that pits African against African, which is the spread of xenophobic attacks against immigrants in South Africa, especially the 2008 riots. And you also close Go Tell the Sun with the same concern in a short story called Six Pack. And my question is, what moved you to write two short stories focusing on this issue?
I think one of my concerns, one of the issues that I deal with a lot, that confronts me as a Motswana living in Botswana today, is this issue of land and the issue of these borders, which I always, I talk about it jokingly and saying, we defend these borders with our lives today. And yet we had no part in their creation. A lot of the history that we are taught in schools really doesn't deal with this issue at all. And we've just come to accept that a brother will be separated from a brother, a mother will be separated from a child by a border that was decided by a group of men, I don't know how many years ago, sitting and drinking tea wherever they were. They decided that, okay, the Limpopo River will be a border, and so we put up a fence. So it's a concern of mine that we have these artificial divisions that we defend. It's incredible how passionate we are, about wanting to separate and to be different, when in fact we really are the same people. So, it's an issue that keeps coming back. As someone who was born in Botswana, of parents, a mother who comes from South Africa, my question is, where is home?
Yeah.
And what determines what I determine as home? Can home not be South Africa, just a few meters away? So it's these concerns that led me to write these stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and you are very close, indeed, to the border between Botswana and South Africa.
I live close to, yes, that's good. I live close to the border. The border, the Tokwe border, for example, is about 25 kilometers from where I am. So to get to the other side, I need to produce my passport and have it stamped, and then I'm told I can stay for 30 days at a time and another 30 days. So it's just down the road basically. And the South African border, the one that I'm talking about, the Tlokweng border, is where a lot of refugees came in from South Africa, came across the border along the Tlokweng side. So it's just down the road. But I need a border to go get to the other side.
Yes, unfortunately, yes. Wame, I'm fascinated by the way you shape and center your female characters in the stories. Actually, the main character of your short stories are women. Indeed, 90% of the stories in Go Tell the Sun are focused on women. Also, over here in this, where is it? Right here in this anthology, I don't know if you remember A Woman in Her Hand, okay? This short story belongs to this anthology, which is lovely. It's beautifully written. So even though your female characters might be all different, there's something that they all have in common. Tell us about it, please.
Well, the challenge of writing and the choice of characters, I think it was always going to be about women for me, because I mean, that is what I relate to most easiest. And the question of tradition, as I've tried to investigate it. I mean, in the anthology that you just showed, the one about a woman is her hands, a lot of the writing that I do really is about challenging, or not even challenging, but interrogating a lot of the traditions and the rituals that we have come to accept as being normal, you know. But rather than just challenging them for challenge's sake, I really attempt to understand what it is these sayings, for example, mean. This one is specifically, a woman is her hands, came from a story, is a proverb that says, Mosadi tshwene o jwa mabogo. So a woman is recognized by her deeds and what she does, rather than facial beauty and that kind of thing. So I want to take apart these proverbs, these sayings that are so much a part of me that I obey them all and celebrate them almost without thinking, but without really understanding where they're from. So in writing the stories, this is what I was trying to do, to look at these women and how they're impacted by the society and how they operate within the confines of the society that they find themselves in. Okay. I'm not sure that I answered you.
Yes, of course, it's crystal clear. There is another concern that it's very tangible through your stories. This is the identity and the tradition. You have just mentioned tradition a few minutes ago. And why is this so important for most African writers and also your writing?
Well, for my writing, I think one of the issues that I face or that I question a lot is this question of belonging and also the question of otherness. As somebody who straddles both Botswana and South Africa, you know, supposedly two countries, but I straddle these two places. There's always this question of where do I actually belong? You know, why do I do certain things the way that I do them? So that it's a part of me that, you know, I want to get into and to question and to understand, because these are the things that shape me. These are the things that give me eyes, if I can put it like that. I see things in a different way because of the way that these things are so ingrained in me and have been handed down to me. So it's a question of where do they belong in today's society? Yeah. So yeah, so tradition, questioning these things is, yeah, it's I don't even know whether I set out to do them deliberately, but they keep popping up in the writing that I do.
Yeah, that's what I can read through your short stories. Yeah, every year. So can tradition and modernity coexist together?
Oh, they must. I think they must. Today, we're faced with the COVID-19 challenge. And something like the way that we grieve and funerals, for example, the way that we conduct our funerals. We have had such rigid traditions. You know, you mourn for so many days, so many people come, you wash your hands, you must eat together before you part. We can no longer do that. And so this is now today forcing itself into our yesterdays and tearing our yesterdays apart. But we must continue to survive and adapt. So yes, you know, we must grow. You know, as things change, we must be able to adapt. But I'm not a fan of shredding things and tearing them apart just for the sake of it. But I do believe in moving forward and bettering what we have. Yeah.
Okay, so probably, well, sometimes taking the good things from the tradition, okay, in our present time. Yeah. Okay, good. Regarding Go Tell the Sun, how can we define the structure of the book? Is it a novella? Is a collection of short stories? How do you define the structure of the book?
Well, it's a collection of short stories. The first 8 stories it's a collection of interlinked short stories. But what I tried to do was I kept Situnya, the main character, in the stories, and she would reappear in a different form. But the idea behind that was to say Situnya is representative of a woman, a Motswana woman, at some point in her life. And rather than bringing in different names, I kept the same person. I said, if I were to put her in one environment, how would she behave? If I were to put her in a different environment, how would she behave? So yeah, this is a collection of short stories interlinked, and interlinked primarily by the setting.
Yeah. Okay, so we can consider her, Situnia, as an allegory, more or less.
Yes, I'd say so. Yes.
Okay, all right. So you wrote a short story called Situnia Likes Girls Better. This is included here in Go Tell the Sun, but also in this anthology, Queer Africa, which is an anthology of short stories highlighting different aspects of being LGBTIQ+. And by the time you wrote this story, homosexuality was banned in Botswana. What motivated or drove you to write the story as such back then in a country where same-gender loving was prohibited?
I think I was brave, very brave, to want to challenge some of the things that I really didn't understand. I mean, the issue of same-sex relationships for me is one of humanity. And I really didn't understand why there could be a law that would criminalize an act of love. So I thought I will write about it, you know. And so I did. And Situnya Likes Girls Better happens to be probably the most anthologized story from the collection. It's the one that keeps appearing and reappearing in anthologies. Possibly because it challenges this, which is so unusual in Botswana, not spoken about at least. But even in 2010, although it was criminalized, we know that this happens and this exists. And at the time, if I recall, there was a discussion about it, and one of our leaders at the time said he was not going to prosecute anybody, but he was not going to lose the elections by supporting same-sex relationships. And I just thought that it was important that as a writer, I investigate and interrogate and put myself out there by taking a stance on something that I believe. And really, it is about our humanity.
Yeah. Definitely, you were very, very brave, especially when it comes to Africa. It is important also to point out that homosexuality in Botswana was legalized 2 years ago. I believe it was mid 2019. Okay. The title of your book, a lovely one indeed, "Go Tell the Sun," which was translated into Spanish as "Ve, cuéntaselo al sol." What does it mean? What is behind the title? Because you do not mention "Go Tell the Sun" through the pages.
Well, Botswana is a desert country, even though it has been raining for the last 2 weeks nonstop. But I mean, we live in the sun. And for me, what I was trying to say was come out of whatever hiding place or cave or darkness you are cramped in. Come out and be free and tell the sun. So this is really, I think that's the message behind the title. Let us be open and let us speak and let us give voice, to those whose voices perhaps cannot be heard. I really don't want to say giving voice to voiceless. I hate that expression, but really it is about let us speak, let us come out and speak.
Interesting, very interesting. Wame, what are you doing right now? Are you writing anything?
Right now, I am revising and re-revising a collection of short stories that I wrote for my thesis, and that was in 2017. And 4 years later, I'm still revising and re-revising, but I'm working on a new collection of short stories. I mean, Go Tell the Sun is that long, but I have a new collection of short stories that should be out soon. So I'm in the revision stage. I keep going back and tweaking and fixing, and hopefully somebody will say, just give me this book and let's publish it and be done with it. Yeah.
Well, good to know that. A few days ago, I invited people on Instagram to send me some questions, okay, for you. Christina Savio asked, how do you find your voice? Did it always come out clearly in your writing, or was it more of a process?
Oh, it was very much a process because I remember early on just before Go Tell the Sun came out, I actually sent my story to a friend, and her comment, she was a publisher, she is a publisher, and she said, this sounds so much like, and she told me the author, and I was devastated. I thought, but this is not what I set out to do at all. I mean, I didn't mean to mimic or to copy anyone. And so I went back and wrote some more and practiced. So eventually, I think once I shed the fear, because I think a lot of it had to do with fear, fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of offending. I think once I managed to get past that, then I was able to actually find what is my voice. And I continue to work on it, but I do believe that I know what I want to sound like. I know what I want to talk about. So I'm working on my voice, continually growing it, but I know who I am when I write.
Okay, so it takes time, of course. Yeah, it's just a matter of time and revising your writing. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to stay longer, but let's close this interview with a very last question, also asked by another person through Instagram. The question is, 3 questions indeed. When do you write? Where do you write? And how do you write?
I try to write every day. I usually get up at about 2, 3 in the morning when it's quiet. That's the time that I write. So very early in the morning until about 8, 3, 4 hours a day. That's when I try to write. I always make sure that I get out of bed and I sit at my desk. And I actually type on the computer, but I make notes by hand, and then I transfer those onto the computer. So when I'm editing and really thinking and planning the story, I'm writing by hand, and then I type it onto the laptop. So yeah, I try and do that every day. Early in the morning is the best time for me.
Wow. So at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you wake up.
2 a.m., 3 a.m. I sleep very early. That helps. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I have read probably some people waking up at 5 in order to write. Like, Gucci Mecheta, when she was in London, she used to wake up before the kids went to school, and that was at 5 o'clock. So I cannot imagine at 2 or 3. Yeah. So you go to bed very early.
I go to bed very early, and I used to nurse my father. So, and he had very odd hours. So I think ever since that time, 2, 3 o'clock was my starting time, and then I stay up the whole day and do other things as well during the day. So yeah, but it's quiet then, and yeah, that's the best time, because some people write to music and what have you. I just want complete silence to be able to think.
Yeah, I understand. So Wame, once again, thank you so much for your time. It was nice talking to you. Please do keep writing, and thank you so much for sharing your stories, and also shortening, especially me shortening the distance too. Okay, I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, and I'm going to try and keep writing. Thank you.
You'd better. Okay. I need some more material. I love your writing, but I want to have more books. I also have this one, the Ken Prize. Do you remember? I believe this was in 2008.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe
that's also about 10 years. Yeah, so I need to get serious and finish this new collection too. Yeah.
You have to. Okay. All right. So once again, thank you so much. Okay, it was very nice seeing you.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good one. All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay.